about this a lot lately. Dead by Dawn, one of my most recent books. And I kind of think it's fascinating where ideas come from and how they come about and how you can make stories. So I kind of want to talk about this one a little bit and how it came to be and kind of give you a rundown, like a synopsis, tell you the story basically. So I had, at the point where I was coming up with this book at some point in the past, I had already read The Stand by Stephen King. And at this point, I was in the middle of reading Salem's Lot. I remember reading Salem's Lot and just thinking, like, that's about where a group of vampires, they take over a town, basically, and then at the end of it, they just take up the town, and then the vampires just kind of disappear and leave, or whatever, and people start to come back into the town and realize everyone's missing, and it's kind of like, oh, that was weird. But to me, I always thought, like, the ending didn't make too much sense, because why would they stop? Like, why are they keeping to the borders of a town? And where'd they go, and why aren't there more towns like this? It just happened once. And having read The Stand, I was thinking, like, oh, I wish Salem's Lot was on the scale of The Stand. Whereas these vampires roll in, and they take over this town, and but they spread there, and it's with, and they essentially they don't stop at the border, they just keep going, and then it's about just as the world realizes what's going on, like, how cool would that be? Just like in The Stand, as they realize the disease is happening, now they're realizing the vampires are happening, and slowly just trying to struggle, and with the government getting involved, and just people. And the other thing about Salem's Lot that I liked was there's a before where Stephen King writes how he wanted to make Dracula, but in a modern day's sense, which it was written in the 70s, so how would you react to Dracula using 70s technology? Instead of being Transylvania, it's some small town, American town called Salem. Salem's Lot. Well, using that as my inspiration in The Stand, I was like, well, I'm gonna take these vampires and I'm gonna have them spread and just keep spreading, and they're gonna use that same concept of technology, but this time it's gonna be today's technology. So everyone has cell phones, and they're all on Facebook and Reddit and whatever, everything, and cable news and stuff. And just how they would slowly, it would grow and get out of control. Like, every night there'd be more and more vampires, and like they take over the East Coast, and they start moving inward, and they're starting to get to the middle, and people are like talking about people getting sick, and some people are like, they got videos of where a mirrorless camera sees a person, but a camera that's normal, because cameras use mirrors, those cameras don't capture the image of the person, so it looks like their object they're holding is floating, and how people are speculating vampires and just how they catch on. And then at one point, there's this chapter in The Stand where like basically it's the moment the disease goes from being underground to it just like this is the point of no return where it takes off and it's just skyrocketing, and from this point on it's out of control. Like he basically follows the disease from person to person. Like this chapter has none of the main characters in it. It's just talking about like a trucker walks out, drives his truck down the road and gets out for gas, and as he's paying he sneezes on the cashier for some reason on accident, and that's the disease. And as the cashier's working, the next person in line or someone a couple minutes later comes in and she hands him a dollar bill, and the dollar bill has a disease on it, and the guy slips it in his pocket and gives it to his kids in the car, and the kids at the next truck stop give it to a bunch of people, and it heads off, and it's just like boom boom. Well, I pay homage to that in one chapter in this, where it's just like the point of no return, where like the attacks go from underground to the vampires are hiding, and they're slowly going like they always have been, like being cautious, trying not to get caught, while still trying to spread themselves now. And this is the part where they're like, they've taken so much now that they can just come out into the light, and like I have them like a bunch of things, but one of the main things that happens in that chapter is they come out onto a baseball field. So it's on like live TV as a bunch of vampires hop the fence and walk up to the baseball player, and like the cops run out in the field, you know, almost like they would if a streaker had come out, and then you know they shoot the vampires and the vampires kill them, and then vampires appear in the stands and take over. And then same chapter, there's a guy, these people are skinny dipping, and on the other side of a lake you just see a vampire just like walks in, and they don't see it, and then they start like Jaws, like they're swimming and they just start popping under the surface of the water. And also another thing I want to get with this is everyone kind of, I've noticed in a lot of vampire books, like the Draculas and going back to Salem's Lot, is they kind of, there's one scene where a guy shoots a vampire with a shotgun in Salem's Lot, but for the most part they avoid like what people would actually use if they were under attack from a vampire. And I wanted to show like full on, just one of the characters at some point just, you know, tears a vampire apart with a shotgun. And they still got hard skin and they're still strong, but they're stronger than humans. But I wanted them to just, so basically he just shoots the hell out of this thing and it just takes bullets like nothing. So he uses like, you know, a powerful gun, powerful enough to just, you know, blow complete chunks out, and like basically saws them in half, and then how they have to deal with it. And then I also wanted to do a scientific point of view in this book, and I take with that, I thought it'd be fascinating to one of the characters in the book that it keeps cutting to is a scientist, and he is basically studying, they have a vampire captured, he's just studying him and he's trying to figure him out, and it tries to add some science, some fictional science to the traits of a vampire. Like, why would a wood stake to the heart kill a vampire? And in this, it's, the vampires are almost a bacteria. Crap, I can't remember now. But they're a, well, for the sake of me looking it up right now, it's like a bacteria inside of you. And the stake, the life in the wood, So the bacteria, kills all life. So when you shove wood in it, and the heart would be the main spot where all the bacteria is, it soaks into that wood like a sponge. It feels the life and it heads towards the life to kill it, but the wood's able to just soak it up, and it just soaks up all the bacteria out of the body and turns it into a corpse. And then sunlight causes the bacteria to vibrate, and they vibrate so much that they create heat and then spontaneously combust. Same with silver. And silver, I know silver's werewolves, but silver can be vampires too. And in this book, they're susceptible to silver. And then holy water, I have them kind of be like confused on the whole subject and just be like, we don't know. And then garlic confuses the vampire's senses. So that's where that comes in. So if you like want to sleep somewhere and don't want a vampire to know you're in there, they kind of figure out you can surround the place in garlic and they just will pass. And yep, so that was everything I wanted to do. All the stuff I wanted to put in a vampire book. And just, how cool is it that people are on Facebook and they're like, loved ones are dying, and it's just, there's kind of a panic, but no one knows what's going on, and bodies are disappearing. And all of a sudden the military gets called, and one morning they wake up and the guy goes outside and the whole military convoy is just gone, and there's like their helmets and guns or stuff, or they're just laying all over the ground, and their vehicles left unattended, the engine running, or it's out of gas now, and just everyone being like confused, and then the government calling for evacuations, and just trying to struggle and figure this out as just, it's complete decimation. And it's essentially if the stand in Salem's Lot had a baby, because those were the main inspirations. This is its own book by all rights, but definitely everything I ever wanted from that. And I think this is coming off backwards. This is backwards. This is gonna be backwards. But I don't know. Sometimes I think about it and I'm like, it's just cool. It's a book I always wanted to read. Couldn't find it, so I wrote it. Alright, guys. I hope you're asleep. But, yep. I think I might want to do this with some of my other books too, because I have some cool stories on how I came up with them.